Jenna Ross walked through the glass doors of Argent Creative, the hum of productivity already echoing through the sleek modern lobby. Her heels clicked against polished concrete as she approached the receptionist's desk, clutching a leather folder and forcing her nerves into submission. It was her first day at the company, and she was determined not to let the remnants of her messy breakup bleed into this fresh start. The HR manager, a well-dressed woman named Kemal, guided her through a whirlwind of introductions and paperwork before finally depositing her at the marketing department's open concept floor. And that's when she saw him, leaning against the edge of a conference table, speaking in a low voice to a group of designers, was a man she immediately recognized from the company website, Alex Morgan, creative director. He looked even more magnetic in person. Sharp blue-grey eyes, dark brown hair that curled slightly over his collar, and a presence that seemed to press subtly into the air around him. Their eyes met for only a second. Just a second. But it was enough. "Alex, this is Jenna Ross, our new content strategist," Camille announced cheerfully. Alex straightened, his gaze returning to Jenna's with professional calm and something unreadable underneath. "Welcome aboard," he said, offering his hand. "Thank you." Jenna's palm met his, the touch brief but warm. His skin was cool, his grip firm. It was a simple exchange, routine, but her pulse betrayed her. By mid-afternoon, Jenna had a desk, a mug, an inbox full of onboarding tasks, and a headache. She tried to focus, but the memory of Alex's voice, that low timbre, kept intruding. A message pinged on her computer. "Rachel Kim. Wanna escape for coffee in 10? I'll introduce you to the real characters around here." Jenna smiled. Rachel, her assigned buddy, had already proven quick-witted and disarming. 10 minutes later, they were seated in a sunlit corner of the cafe on the first floor, iced lattes in hand. "So?" Rachel leaned forward conspiratorially. "Who've you spotted?" "Spotted?" Rachel grinned. "Oh, come on. First day, new job. Don't tell me you haven't already chosen a crush." Jenna rolled her eyes, feigning disinterest. "I'm here to work." "Mm-hmm. So it definitely wasn't Alex Morgan, right? The tall, broody type with the cheekbones of sin." Jenna choked on her straw. "You're ridiculous." Rachel smirked. "I'm right, and careful. He's complicated." That night, Jenna sat alone on her couch, legs tucked under her, laptop open but forgotten. Her fingers absently trailed the rim of her wineglass. Her thoughts kept circling back to Alex, not just his looks, though those were definitely distracting, but the way he seemed to occupy space without trying. Like he knew things. Like he saw through people. Like he saw through her. She exhaled slowly and shook her head. No, she wasn't going to be the cliché. She'd worked too hard to be more than someone's office fling. And yet, her body pulsed at the memory of his hand brushing hers. The next day was the first time they were paired together. Jenna had barely stepped into the meeting room when she spotted her name already printed on the brainstorming board. Right under Alex, he glanced up as she entered. "Morning." His voice was smoother than it had any right to be. "Good morning," she replied, settling into the chair beside him. Their knees brushed briefly beneath the table. As the meeting wore on, Jenna found herself attuned not only to the ideas being thrown around, but also to the angle of his jaw when he spoke, the way his fingers tapped against the tabletop when he thought. She told herself to focus, and she did. Mostly. They worked well together. Too well. At one point, their hands reached for the same marker. Their fingers touched, lingered a half-second longer than necessary. She looked up. So did he. The air between them shifted. Denser. Charged. And just like that, it passed. The meeting continued. But something had started. Something neither of them could name yet. The rest of the week passed in a blur of presentations, onboarding sessions, and whispered hallway conversations that weren't meant for Jenna's ears, but reached her anyway. She was starting to learn the rhythm of Argent Creative, the way the elevator never stopped on floor 6 unless you jabbed the button twice. That the espresso machine only worked if you sweet-talked it. That Rachel somehow knew everyone's business before it even happened, and that Alex Morgan had a gravitational pull she couldn't ignore. She tried to be subtle. She really did. But Jenna could feel herself drifting toward him during team huddles, her body warming when he leaned over her desk to check her drafts, their proximity stirring something low and persistent in her chest. It didn't help that he was being careful, too careful. Like he knew exactly what was happening, and was trying to keep it from happening anyway. "Have you noticed how he avoids looking at you now?" Rachel asked one afternoon, as they stood by the windows, pretending to discuss the weather while sneakily watching the office floor. Jenna raised an eyebrow. "Who?" Rachel gave her a look. "Please, Alex. He used to watch you when you weren't looking. Now, it's like he's actively trying not to." Jenna glanced toward the conference room where Alex stood speaking to Mark Rivera. His posture was relaxed, arms crossed. But when he noticed her gaze, he immediately turned slightly away. Her stomach flipped. Rachel nudged her. "I told you, complicated." Later that day, Jenna was working late. The office had thinned out. Just a few scattered employees still clacking away at keyboards. Her screen glowed in the dim light, and she was fighting through a creative block when a familiar voice broke her focus. "Still here?" She turned. Alex stood a few feet away, coffee in one hand, his shirt sleeves rolled up to the elbow, exposing lean forearms and a silver watch that gleamed under the overhead light. "Trying to untangle this headline," Jenna said, leaning back in her chair. "You?" "I could say the same," he replied, sipping. "Creative blocks love overtime." He stepped closer, glanced at her screen. "Where innovation meets vision," he read aloud. "Safe. Polished. Not you." Jenna blinked. "Not me?" Alex shrugged lightly. "You write like someone who takes risks. This doesn't." She stared at him. That was the first real thing he'd said to her all week. "You've read my work?" He didn't look at her. "I read everything that crosses my desk." There was a beat of silence. "Even the rough drafts?" "Especially the rough drafts." Something tightened low in her belly. He was so calm, so composed. And yet she could feel it under the surface. That same tension. That same pull. "You're hard to read, you know," she said quietly. Alex's gaze lifted to hers. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "That's not always a bad thing." Her breath caught. He stepped back. "Good night, Jenna." And just like that, he was gone. The next morning she arrived early. Earlier than usual. The air was still, the desks empty. As she made her way toward the kitchen, she nearly collided with Eric Daniels, who was juggling a coffee tray and a half-eaten bagel. "Whoa, sorry, Ross." He smiled, handing her one of the cups. "I got an extra. You looked like you needed it yesterday." Jenna took it, surprised. "Thanks. You didn't have to." "I wanted to." He winked, then gestured toward the hallway. "Hey, some of us are grabbing drinks Friday. You in?" She hesitated. Rachel's voice echoed in her head. Complicated. Maybe she needed a distraction. "Sure," she said. "Why not?" Friday came too fast. The after-hours bar was dimly lit and pulsing with low music. Jenna arrived with Rachel, but soon found herself talking to Eric, who hovered close and leaned in when he laughed. "You know," he said, swirling his whiskey, "you're a mystery around the office." Jenna smirked. "That makes two of us." "You don't smile like someone who's new. And you flirt like someone who's very practiced." He grinned, and she was about to make another comment. Light, harmless. When she felt it. A shift. A presence. She turned slightly and saw Alex at the bar. Not drinking, not speaking. Just watching. His eyes locked on hers across the room. And they didn't move. Not for a moment. Not for too long. Then, deliberately, he turned his back. Something in her chest pinched. Later, in the restroom, Jenna stood at the sink, staring at her reflection. Her lipstick was perfect. Her posture straight. But her thoughts were all wrong. Why did it matter if Alex saw her with Eric? Why did it burn? A knock startled her. When she opened the door, she nearly ran into him. Alex. He looked different, tense, his jaw tight. "Sorry," she said, moving to step around him. "Wait." She paused. His voice was low, rougher than usual. "You don't have to do this." Her heart thudded. "Do what?" "Pretend I'm not watching you." His eyes searched hers. "Pretend it doesn't matter." She stared at him, breath caught between confusion and desire. "You've been ignoring me," she said. "I've been trying not to want you." Silence. Then, his hand brushed against hers. Just a touch, as if testing a line. When she didn't move, he stepped closer. "Say something," he murmured. But she couldn't. Not when his eyes were so close. Not when the air between them was thick and hot. She could only stand there, wanting him to close the space. Instead, he stepped back. Just one step. "Good night, Jenna," he said again, and left her there. Heart pounding, lips parted, wondering what she would have done if he hadn't stopped. Monday morning arrived with the same polished rhythm as every other day. Soft clicks of keyboards, distant chatter, the clink of coffee cups. But for Jenna, something had shifted. A fracture beneath the surface, invisible to others, but sharp enough to catch her every time she moved. Alex had been avoiding her again. Not obviously. He still nodded at her in meetings, still provided comments on her work. But his eyes never lingered. His tone never softened. He was all business, all lines and limits. Whatever had passed between them outside the restroom on Friday, whatever heat had almost ignited, had been sealed away by Monday's schedule. And it pissed her off. "So what's going on with you and Alex?" Rachel asked over lunch, poking her salad with suspicion. Jenna didn't answer right away. She stirred her iced tea, watching the condensation run down the side of the glass. "Nothing," she said finally. Rachel snorted. "Please. You looked at each other on Friday like you were about to tear the wallpaper off the bar." Jenna sighed. "He's distant, and then he's not. It's like he wants to pull me in, but keeps shoving me back." Rachel tilted her head. "Maybe he's fighting the obvious." "Which is?" "That you want each other, and it's not going to stay quiet forever." The next few days were a blur of controlled silence. Alex didn't speak to her more than necessary. Jenna threw herself into her tasks, her copy tight, sharp, aggressive, and vaguely angry. Everyone noticed. Except Alex, apparently. It wasn't until Thursday that the ice cracked again. They had a brainstorming session scheduled at 4, but Jenna was still in the elevator at 4:03. She entered the meeting room a few minutes late, flustered, expecting a full table. Only Alex was there. Just him. His laptop open, sleeves already rolled up, tie slightly loosened, like he'd given up on pretending. "I thought we were meeting the whole team," Jenna said cautiously, taking a seat across from him. "They cancelled last minute, left it to us." Her pulse flicked at his choice of words. "Us." Alex looked up at her, then immediately back at his screen. "We'll just run through ideas. Keep it fast." She nodded, though neither of them moved to speak first. The room was too quiet. The kind of quiet that made the sound of your own heartbeat unbearable. Finally, she opened her mouth. "Do you always do that?" "Do what?" "Push people away when it gets complicated." His eyes snapped to hers, calm, but sharper than before. "I don't make a habit of blurring lines with people I work with." "And yet," she said, voice low. "And yet," he agreed. They stared at each other. The air between them thickened, tighter than walls, thicker than silence. Then Alex stood up, not quickly, deliberately. He walked around the table, stopping beside her chair. "Tell me to go," he said softly. Her breath caught. "Tell me you don't think about it. About me." She swallowed. Her hands clenched in her lap. "I can't," she whispered. His hand moved to the table, palm flat beside her elbow. She didn't move. "Couldn't." "Neither can I," he said. Then his fingers brushed her jaw, light, searching. Her skin burned beneath his touch. She turned toward him without meaning to, lips parting, breath shallowing. And their mouths met. It wasn't tentative. It wasn't careful. It was everything they'd held back. Heat, frustration, hunger, months of stolen glances and swallowed urges. Jenna's hands gripped his shirt, pulled him closer. Alex's mouth moved against hers like he'd imagined it 100 times. Maybe he had. She didn't know how long they kissed. Minutes, a lifetime. When he finally pulled away, his forehead rested against hers, breath ragged. "But we can't do this here," he said. "Then where?" That night, Jenna didn't go straight home. Instead, she drove in circles for almost an hour, past her building, past his. Her heart was a riot in her chest. Not just from the kiss, but from what it meant. This was real now, and real came with consequences. She parked outside her apartment, phone in her hand, thumb hovering over his number. She didn't text. She didn't call. She just stared at the screen. A soft knock at her window made her jump. It was Eric. He was walking his dog, or maybe pretending to, and had clearly noticed her sitting in the car for far too long. "You okay?" he asked, genuinely concerned. Jenna forced a smile. "Yeah, just thinking." He smiled and offered a wave. "Well, don't think yourself into a breakdown." She nodded and watched him go. Her phone vibrated. A message. "Alex, I shouldn't have kissed you, but I won't apologize for wanting to." Her fingers hovered. "Jenna, come to me next time. Don't run." She stared at it, then pressed send. Friday arrived heavy with anticipation. Jenna hadn't seen Alex since the kiss. No texts, no calls, no accidental bumping into each other near the coffee machine. It was as if the office had swallowed him whole, and she hated that she noticed. Rachel did too. "He's doing the smart thing," she said, twirling a pen between her fingers. "He's scared." "You're new. He's your boss. Would have a field day." "He's not my boss," Jenna muttered. Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Oh, honey, maybe not on paper, but he signs off on half your work. Don't act like that doesn't make things messy." Jenna said nothing. She just stared at the frosted glass door of the creative director's office, the one that remained closed all week. By late afternoon, the mood in the office had shifted. People were winding down, the casual Friday vibes setting in. Jenna was packing up when Eric appeared beside her desk. "Drinks tonight?" he asked with a hopeful grin. "No pressure. But I've got a table and no one interesting to sit across from me yet." Jenna hesitated. Her first instinct was to say no. She wasn't in the mood for small talk and polite smiles. But then she thought of Alex's silence, of his message, of how he kissed her and then disappeared. Maybe it was time to stop waiting. "Sure," she said, grabbing her bag. Why not? The bar was louder than she remembered. Music pulsed beneath their feet, and conversation blurred into a constant buzz. Jenna sipped her drink slowly, letting the alcohol take the edge off her tightly wound nerves. Eric was charming, effortlessly so. He kept her laughing, never pushed too far, always maintained just enough distance to be respectful. But he wasn't him. He wasn't Alex. Still, Jenna leaned in when Eric made a joke. She smiled when he touched her hand. She let herself flirt, even if it felt like playing a role. And then she saw him. Alex. He stood near the entrance, his eyes scanning the room. When they landed on her, his entire body stilled. He didn't move for a long moment, just watched. Then he turned toward the bar, alone, and ordered a drink. Jenna's skin burned, every nerve in her body tuned to his presence. Even though he didn't come over, didn't acknowledge her, didn't dare. Eric leaned in. "Hey, you okay?" She forced a smile. "Yeah, just a bit warm." He glanced toward the bar. "That's Morgan, right?" Jenna nodded slowly. Eric's tone shifted. "Is something going on between you two?" Jenna hesitated. "I don't know." "Because if there is, just say so. I'm not trying to step on anything, but I'm not interested in playing third wheel either." She looked down at her drink, then back toward Alex. He was watching again. Their eyes met across the distance, and something passed between them. raw, aching, silent. Eric, she said gently, you're great, but I think my head's in the wrong place tonight. He studied her for a beat, then gave a small, understanding nod. No hard feelings. And just like that, he stood and left. She didn't even wait 5 minutes before heading toward the bar. Alex didn't look surprised when she approached. He glanced down at her glass, then back up at her face. Everything okay? He asked, his voice unreadable. I should ask you that, Jenna replied. You've been distant. He exhaled slowly. I needed space, time to think. About what? His jaw clenched. About how badly I want you, and how that could ruin everything. Jenna stepped closer. Then maybe we stop pretending everything's already ruined. The silence between them was thick, electric. I can't stop thinking about Friday, she whispered. About your mouth on mine. About the way you looked at me, like you already knew what I felt. Alex's gaze darkened. I did. Then do something about it. They left the bar without another word. His apartment was minimalist. Clean lines, cool tones, exactly like him. But nothing about the way he kissed her at the door was clean or cool. It was desperate. He pressed her against the wall, hands on her waist, mouth on hers, and she melted into him. Her fingers gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, anchoring herself to the moment. They stumbled toward the bedroom, mouths never parting. Clothes came off between kisses, her dress slipping from her shoulders, his shirt unbuttoned with shaky fingers. Skin on skin, heat against heat. The bed was somewhere beneath them, but neither cared where they landed. Jenna moaned when his mouth traced the line of her collarbone, his hands exploring every inch of her like he'd imagined it 1,000 times. She arched against him, breathless, overwhelmed. Say my name, he whispered. Alex, she gasped, eyes fluttering shut. That night, there was no fear, no office, no rules, only heat, only want, only the way he touched her like he needed her more than air, and the way she touched him back like she'd been starving. At dawn, Jenna woke to sunlight creeping through the blinds. She was wrapped in a warm sheet, her back pressed to Alex's chest, his arm heavy around her waist. For a moment, everything was perfect. Then reality crept in. The office, the whispers, the risks. She exhaled, long and slow. Behind her, Alex stirred. Still here, he murmured. For now, she said. Neither of them moved, because they both knew that what happened next, what happened after this night, would matter more than anything they'd done between the sheets. Monday morning returned with its usual sterile calm. Jenna arrived at the office early, wearing a muted blouse and tailored pants, hair pinned neatly back. Not because she wanted to hide, but because she needed control. Inside, she was anything but composed. She hadn't spoken to Alex since the night at his apartment. There had been no whispered promises, no romantic goodbyes. Just his warm breath on her shoulder as they drifted to sleep, and the quiet way he kissed her temple before she slipped out the door. Now, back at her desk, everything felt the same, and nothing did. She was reviewing campaign copy when Rachel appeared, coffee in hand and eyebrows lifted. Someone looks freshly ruined, she said, settling into the chair across from Jenna's desk. Jenna sighed. Please don't start. Rachel grinned. Oh, I'm not judging, just observing. You've got that glow. I do not. You do. She took a sip, then leaned in, voice dropping. So what now? You two finally stopped playing the long game? Jenna hesitated. We crossed a line. Rachel tilted her head. And how's he acting? He's pretending nothing happened. Rachel's smile faded. That tracks. And now? I don't know. We didn't really talk after. Classic. She stood. Well, just don't let him pretend you're a secret forever. That's a game you won't win. Before Jenna could respond, the elevator dinged. She turned her head casually and froze. A tall woman stepped out, wearing heels that echoed across the floor. She was striking. Elegant black blazer, dark auburn hair, crimson lipstick. Every step was precise, confident. And she was headed straight for the creative wing. Who's that? Jenna asked. Rachel narrowed her eyes. That is Vanessa Lee. Jenna blinked. Vanessa? As in Alex's ex, former brand manager. Transferred to LA 2 years ago after their little office romance blew up in HR. Jenna's stomach twisted. Why is she here? Rachel shrugged. No idea. But it probably isn't for small talk. 10 minutes later, Jenna caught sight of Alex through the glass of his office. He was standing, talking to Vanessa. His posture was tense, arms crossed. She stood close. Too close. Her voice low, her expression unreadable. Jenna couldn't hear a word, but her imagination filled in the blanks. 1,000 worst-case scenarios. She looked away, her throat tightening. That afternoon she avoided him entirely. Buried herself in edits, ignored the ache in her chest. She knew it wasn't fair. He owed her no explanations. But still, the jealousy hit hard and fast. Worse was the realization that she'd started to want more than what they'd agreed to never define. It wasn't until the office had emptied that she finally heard his voice. Jenna. She looked up. Alex stood at her desk, jaw tight, hands in his pockets. Got a minute? She closed her laptop slowly. Sure. He led her to an empty conference room. Once inside, he turned, eyes searching hers. I didn't expect her to show up. Jenna folded her arms. So she is the ex? He nodded. It ended a long time ago. Badly. We haven't spoken since she left for the West Coast. And now she's back. Why? Alex hesitated. She says she might be relocating permanently. Wants to explore options with the company. Jenna blinked. Does that include you? His gaze sharpened. No, I made that clear. And what about me? She asked quietly. He stepped closer. That's not the same. It feels like the same. Same company, same secrecy, same mess. Alex's jaw tightened. I'm not hiding you. Aren't you? The question hung between them. He stepped back, ran a hand through his hair. Jenna, I've been trying to do this right. To not let it become reckless. But I can't stop thinking about you. I don't want to. She swallowed and, unsure if that was comfort or just more confusion. I'm not asking for promises, she said. I'm asking for honesty. You have it. Then don't go quiet again. If this means anything, don't run when it gets complicated. He nodded slowly. Okay. Silence fell. Softer this time, more real. Then his hand reached for hers. Not urgent, not rushed, just simple contact, a grounding touch. "I'm here," he said, "and I want to be." Later that night, Jenna stood in front of her bathroom mirror, brushing her hair slowly. She thought about how easily things could unravel, how fragile this connection was, stretched between caution and craving. Her phone buzzed. "Alex, I can't stop replaying the way you said my name. Alex, I need to see you. Alex, come over." She stared at the screen, heart thudding. Then typed, "Jenna." I was already on my way. That night, at his apartment, everything was different. They didn't rush. Alex opened the door and simply looked at her for a long time before pulling her in. Their kisses were slower, heavier with meaning. His hands slid under her sweater like he'd missed the shape of her. She pressed against him, letting herself fall into the sensation, the heat of him, the way his body remembered hers. He undressed her gently, reverently, as if she were a secret he finally had permission to keep. Their lovemaking was unhurried, full of soft gasps, murmured names, hands tangled in sheets, and the kind of intimacy that didn't need words. After, they lay side by side, their fingers interlaced, and for the first time since this began, Jenna felt like she was no longer just the quiet next door. She was his, even if the rest of the world didn't know it yet. Jenna woke to the sound of rain. It tapped softly against Alex's window, rhythmic and calming. Pale morning light filtered through the curtains, casting muted shadows across his bedroom. She lay on her side, sheets tangled around her waist, his scent clinging to her skin. Alex was still asleep beside her, one arm slung loosely across her stomach, breath warm against her neck. It would have been perfect if her heart weren't full of questions. Not doubts. Not exactly. Just the ache of something unfinished. At work, things stayed quiet. Not strained, not cold. Just quieter. They passed each other in hallways, brushed hands during meetings, exchanged glances that said everything and nothing. There were no more late-night messages, no whispered invitations. It was as if they'd both pressed pause, waiting for something neither wanted to name. The tension wasn't gone. It had simply changed shape. Now it was filled with expectation, and Jenna wasn't sure how long she could bear it. On Thursday afternoon, the creative team met to finalize campaign visuals. Alex stood at the front of the room, leading the discussion like always. Poised, articulate, just distant enough. But every time Jenna spoke, his eyes found hers. She noticed it. So did Rachel. After the meeting, Rachel caught up with her at the elevator. "You two really think no one notices?" she whispered. Jenna gave a faint smile. "We're not official." Rachel arched a brow. "You don't need to be. It's in your face every time you look at him." Jenna hesitated. "Do you think we're being stupid?" Rachel thought for a second. "No, but I think if you keep pretending this is temporary, it'll eat you both alive." That night, Jenna lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Rain had returned, heavier this time, drumming steadily against the glass. Her apartment was too quiet, too separate. Her phone buzzed once. A message from Alex. "Are you still awake?" She stared at it, heart beating faster. Yes, his reply came seconds later. I don't want to do this halfway anymore. I want to be with you, not just in pieces, not in shadows. Her fingers trembled as she typed. Then show me. Come over. 15 minutes later, there was a soft knock at her door. She opened it without hesitation. Alex stood there, soaked from the rain, hair damp, shirt clinging to his shoulders. He didn't say a word, just looked at her with that quiet intensity she'd come to crave. Then, without waiting, he stepped inside, cupped her face with both hands, and kissed her. Deep, slow, filled with every unsaid thing they'd buried between deadlines and distance. Jenna pulled him in, locking the door behind him, her body already arching into his. Their mouths met again and again, urgent now, mouths hungry and familiar, hands greedy with memory. They moved to her bedroom in silence, peeling off wet clothes, pressing against each other like they'd been apart too long, even though it had only been days. Alex lifted her gently, laying her down, his lips trailing down her neck, over her chest, across her stomach. Every touch was reverent, worshipful, like he was learning her all over again, and remembering everything at once. Jenna moaned softly, her fingers tangling in his hair as his mouth reached the place she needed him most. He took his time. No hesitation, no performance, just need. Her hips arched, her breath quickened. When she came, it was with his name on her lips. Not a whisper this time, but a cry that filled the room. Later, they lay tangled in the sheets, their bodies still humming. The window was open now, letting in cool night air, and the soft sound of Renee. Alex turned toward her, brushing hair from her face. I meant what I said, he murmured. No more halfway. Jenna looked at him, her heart both calm and racing. What about work? What about the rules? We'll figure it out, he said. I'll talk to Mark. If it becomes an issue, I'll step back from overseeing your projects. But I won't pretend we're nothing. I won't go back to that. She searched his face. There was no hesitation in his eyes. I want this, Jenna. You. Us. A long pause. Then she smiled. I do too. In the weeks that followed, things didn't magically become easy. But they became real. They talked. They argued. They figured it out. Mark, to his credit, didn't overreact. He was stern but fair. Keep it professional in the office. What happens outside is your business. Jenna transitioned to a new team. Alex took on a broader role. And the rest of the office? Whispered, of course. But eventually they moved on. Jenna and Alex didn't hide. They just didn't have to. One evening, long after everyone had left, Jenna passed Alex's office. The lights were off, but his door was cracked open. She stepped inside quietly. He was there, sitting by the window, laptop closed, just watching the city lights. When he looked up and saw her, his expression softened. You're late, he teased. She walked over, sat on the edge of his desk, and leaned down to kiss him. Not anymore, she whispered. He reached for her hand, pulled her into his lap, and held her there as the office faded behind them. No more stolen glances, no more blurred lines. Just them. Together. Finally. With no walls between.